Hey guys, welcome back to Reserved Investments on YouTube. And I got a real treat for you guys today. We're going to talk about the market for large size currency made between 1861 all the way up through 1923 in the United States. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And I'm going to show you 5 pieces of very valuable currency from my own personal collection. Now, these 5 pieces altogether have a value of $20,000 or more on today's market. So you're going to want to stick around and see that because these are beautiful works of art. I'm going to be very honest. Now, as you guys know, who have been around this channel for a while, coins and paper money are 2 of my favorite collecting categories of all time. These particular markets are on the mature side of the antique side of the equation. People have been collecting coins and paper money for hundreds of years, especially when we talk about paper money, because it's almost the new kid in the block. Everybody out there has been exposed to coins in some way or another just due to the precious metal content that they contain. Currency is a little bit different. Currency first came on the scene in America, in the United States, right around the year 1775. It was utilized to finance the war with the British, meaning we used paper currency that was produced back then by the Continental Congress to finance the war that we were fighting to gain our own independence. Now, continental currency is in a class all by its own. I'm going to cover that in a separate video, probably several months from now. Honestly, by the time I get around to that video, it's going to be 6 months or more. I'm just going to be very honest with you guys for how many videos I have planned. I also want to quick apologize to my international viewers. I am not going to be covering international currency in this particular video. Again, this video is going to look at currency that was produced by the U.S. from 1861 all the way up through 1923, what most collectors refer to as large size currency collecting. That's what I'm going to be focusing solely on this particular video. International currency will be covered in the future, and I will devote a separate video to it when I get to that point. However, going back to what we're talking about today, a lot of people reach out to me, Sean, just give me the basics. If I want to learn about collecting paper money, what do I have to know? What books should I be buying? What books should I be reading? And what are the basics? How does one learn and gain the knowledge that you have in this market? Well, to be fair, I'm going to be full disclosure here. I have been collecting paper money for literally 20 years. Again, guys, I know I look younger than what I am. Please remember when you watch this video, I am going to be 44 years of age in December of this year, December of 2020. I will turn 44. So I do look a little younger than I am. I've been around this stuff since the age of 12, though. I got heavily involved in collecting paper money back around 2008, 2009, when grading companies like PMG, which is owned by the Certified Collectibles Group out of Sarasota, Florida, the same company that also owns CGC for comic books and trading cards, and also NGC for coins. Well, they came into the market, and so did PCGS at the time. Today, PCGS, who grades currency, is called PCGS Banknote, but back then it was called PCGS. And both firms started to grade and encapsulate banknotes like this. That's when I got involved heavily into the market. Now, to be fair, this market, the market for graded currency, is actually quite new, and most people don't realize this. They've been grading comic books since CGC opened their doors back in 2000, 2001. Currency, believe it or not, didn't become a thing that was graded, ironically, until roughly 2006, 2007. So comic book grading is older than currency grading by the aspect of third-party grading companies getting involved in that market. So it's kind of interesting how this evolved. Coins were the first collectible that were ever third-party graded. From coins, we went into comic books, toys, then we came back around and we finally hit currency. You would think we would have went from literally coins to currency to sports cards. It didn't really work that way, guys. So that's an interesting topic for discussion in another video, how third-party grading influenced a lot of these markets. But just know, if you're going to get into collecting graded currency, you got to understand the market's fairly new. The graded market for currency did not exist before roughly 2006, 2007, if I recall correctly. That's when PMG first came on the scene. Now, a lot of people ask me, where should I start, Sean? Give me a basic starting point. Well, this is what I want you to do. If you have a passion for this market, I don't want you to spend any money in this market before you gain necessary knowledge. So, assuming you have $25, you can go to Amazon, you can go to your local bookstore, you can go to Barnes & Noble, and you can get yourself a copy of the official Red Book, Guidebook of United States Paper Money. Now, this is the book that I recommend you get. It doesn't have to be this edition, guys. You can even get this book used. I'm going to be honest, because most of the pricing information in this book, that's not what you're getting it for. You're getting it for understanding the history on the market and also what notes are available on the market. To get a gauge of what you want to collect, you have to know what's out there available to collect. And that's what this book is going to help you do. Now, this is the 6th edition. I think they're already up to like the 7th, 8th, or 9th edition, if I recall correctly. Again, you don't have to get the newest. You can get this used. But it's very important that you pay attention to this. This is authored by Arthur and Ira Friedberg. The name Friedberg, hint, hint, is going to come up again in this particular video. And it's very important you understand that. That's why I'm telling you to get this particular version of this price guide. They also print other price guides devoted to currency. And believe it or not, the same company that prints this particular guide also prints this one. This is called an Official Whitman Guidebook to United States Currency. Now, this one is done by Kenneth Brissett. It's an excellent book, don't get me wrong. I advise if you're going to get this book, you get it after you get this one. So I would always tell you to go with a guidebook of United States paper money first, and then get the book on United States currency second. There really isn't, to be fair, that much difference between the two books. It's just this particular book also tends to focus more on small size notes and fractional notes. Now, I already know your next question. Sean, what the hell is the difference between a fractional note, a small size note, a large size note? I'm going to answer that for you. Our government, during certain segments like the Civil War or other aspects when we were fighting wars, issued fractional currency. Fractional currency is currency that is in a denomination smaller than $1. So you will see 25-cent, 50-cent fractional currency. The market for that is more niche than the market for large size notes, small size notes, Confederate notes, national bank notes, obsolete banknotes, and the like. So where I'm going with this, just know fractional currency is a segment of the paper money currency in the United States if you're going to collect that particular market. I'm not going to talk about that market in this video. The markets I am going to spend a little bit of time on are large size and small size. Now, this is what you got to understand. If you look at some of these notes, and I will show you these in more detail as we go through this video, but if you look at this note is huge compared to a note that you would have in your wallet today if you live in the United States. This is known as a large size note. It is also known as a horse blanket, to be fair. Now, horse blankets generally refer to the 1923 $1 George Washington large size note, because that was the last year that large size notes were printed in the United States, given regards to their size. So that particular note is usually known as a horse blanket. Well, the reason being is it's because of its size. It's a very large note. So you must know this to understand paper currency. Literally from roughly 1861 all the way up through 1923, any note that was printed by the United States Bureau of Engraving and Printing, which is the same government agency that prints our money today if you live in the United States, during those particular years, all the notes produced were large size. They did not make any small size currency at that point. It did not exist. So if you go into the market and somebody says, this is a silver certificate from 1896, you already know it's going to be a large size note, because small size notes did not exist in America at that particular time. Now, why is this important? Well, in 1923, after the 1923 silver certificates were produced and other currency of that particular year, they got together and they said, you know what? Our currency is just too large. I mean, look at it. It's ridiculous. Nobody wants to carry around a banknote that's this size. They want something smaller, something more compact. So for the next 5 years, they got to work, and in 1928, the next series that was released was the first small size banknote series released by the U.S. Bureau of Engraving and Imprinting. And that is the same size that we use up to this very day. Okay? So if you look in your wallet, you actually have an example of small size currency already in your wallet, and you probably didn't even know that. So that's important to note. So again, what we're covering in this video is large size notes. Now, a lot of people will ask me, Sean, I really want to get into this market. What can you tell me about this market? So we're going to start there first. Now that I gave you an introduction of what books to buy, how to gauge the market, reading these books if you want to learn about it, if you feel you have a passion. If you feel you have a passion for this stuff, this is how you want to approach this market. This market is a patient market. It's on the mature side of the antiques equation, meaning this market is established, it's mature. There's a lot of sophisticated collectors and investors in this market. This is not a market comparable to Pokemon. This is not a market comparable to video games. This is not a market comparable to Magic the Gathering. As a result, you have to have patience. You have to have an understanding of the market dynamics to make this work in your favor. This is what a lot of you are not going to like hearing. If you pay the going price of a note like this, which would be $3,700 at present time, and you buy this note, in order to invest in it, you're going to have to hold this note for 10 years or more. If you sell it prior to 10 years, you're most likely going to lose money or you're going to break even. You're not going to make anything on your investment. Now, some of you who are into a lot of these volatile speculative markets that are geared towards growth, on the speculative side of the trade, you're going to find this market extremely boring. I like boring markets. I don't like taking too much risk with my money because I'm already financially established. That being said, I do use short-term speculation in those speculative markets to my advantage. I then take the profit from those markets and I put it into stuff like this. I put it into real estate. I put it into financial assets, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, and that's how I build my net worth. Now, some people will tell you that coins are a better investment than paper currency. And there is some truth to that, guys. And I want to give you all facets of the market so you have an understanding here. Compared to coins, banknotes are not as popular. Banknotes are usually the market that coin collectors get into once they either have extensive knowledge of the rare coin marketplace or they pretty much finish their collection. Meaning if you're going after a United States type set of US coins, you complete that type set, chances are you're probably going to wander into currency next. That's not to say there aren't people that only collect currency. But currency by and large is just a little bit less popular than coin collecting because you don't get the precious metal speculators in the currency market like you do in the coin marketplace. Let's be honest. There ain't too many people that are coming into the market. Did I just say ain't? I did. Is that a word? I still don't know. I think Webster lists it as a word, so we're going to go with that. Well, there ain't too many people in the market that go, you know what? I'm going to invest in gold, but I'm going to go after a $10 1922 large size gold certificate instead of buying a generic 1922 St. Gaudens $20 gold piece. It just doesn't happen like that, guys. Most people want the precious metal aspect of that market. So that's why coins are always more inherently popular than currency, just so that you're aware. Another thing you must be aware of is grading this stuff. Now, overall, currency, and again, I will take some time towards the end of this video to show you each one of these notes in depth, but currency is graded with the same Sheldon coin grading system that's used to grade coins, from 0 to 70. 0 meaning it's a piece of crap, 70 being it's gem perfect, immaculate. Now, there is one twist here. With currency, if you note on this particular grading company, and this is PMG, on their holder, they denote exceptional paper quality. Exceptional paper quality by PMG is denoted as EPQ. Now, if you collect currency graded by PCGS, they use a similar term, but they call it PPQ, which stands for premium paper quality. Now, this is very important, guys. You must understand this. And I'm going to use a comic book market comparison to explain this to you. If you guys go into your wallet right now and you live in the United States and you pull out a piece of paper money, I don't care what condition it's in. I don't care when it was produced. I don't care whether it's a $1 bill, $5 bill, $100 bill, $20 bill. It doesn't matter. If you run your hand across that bill, you're going to notice that you can almost feel the ink that is raised on the note. That is called embossing. Now, here's where the comparison between the comic book grading market becomes relevant. If you guys remember, and some of you probably weren't in comic book collecting 10 years ago. 10 years ago, one of the biggest and hottest topics, with CGC being involved, with high-end profile collectors being involved, if you mention comic book grading, the subject of pressing came up a lot. What pressing is if you have a comic book that has a couple of minor creases on the cover, or maybe the cover sits a little bit wavy, what you could do with that comic book is you could press it under a significant amount of weight and pressure, and that comic book would then possibly, if you send it to CGC, grade in a higher grade. So you could take a 9.0 or a 9.2 graded comic book, and you could get it graded 9.4, 9.6, even in some cases 9.8. Now, it didn't work perfectly, and of course, a lot of the people at the time didn't realize that not every comic book you sent in for pressing was guaranteed to be a candidate, was guaranteed to get graded at a higher grade as well. So there were nuances and variances that you had to be aware of if you wanted to play this game and still play it to this day and make money at it. But overall, this really divided the comic book collecting marketplace 10 years ago, with the CGC forums having candid discussions about this. There were people that were pro-pressers. There were people that were anti-pressers. Well, today, it's pretty much accepted that when you press a comic book, you can't tell if it's done right that comic book was pressed. Let's be honest. If somebody collected comic books for 40 years and they have a stack of them stacked this high in their basement, all bagged and boarded, the ones on the bottom are going to get more pressure. As a result, it's very possible that some of the defects that they exhibit might be pressed out just from that weight over time. So if they send those books into grading, CGC is not going to take the time to go, well, was this book pressed? Was it not? It seems to be in too mint condition for its time period. The grading company can't find a foolproof way to identify pressing. With paper money, you can. Paper money has embossing. That's why I'm telling you guys, rub your hands across a bill in your wallet, and you'll notice you can feel the raised embossing in most cases. That's important because when a note gets sent into grading, they check for that. If it doesn't have that raised embossing feeling, if somebody took this note and they tried to press it to get a higher grade, meaning press any of the defects out of it, it's not going to come back EPQ. It's not going to come back PPQ if it's sent to PCGS. This moniker adds a lot of value to this note. This is an original note. Now, to be fair, I already know what my critics who know the paper money marketplace are already saying. Well, Sean, there's other ways that a note, even not being pressed, can get sent into a grading company and come back without that moniker. That is correct. Believe it or not, guys, back in the day, most people don't know this. When they produced these notes, they actually sewed them together in packs. It wasn't like you go to the bank today, you ask for a pack of hundreds, and they have a perfectly, that little paper seal on it that you just rip, and that opens up the pack of money. Back in the day, they actually took the time to sew these notes together in packs, and that's how they were stored. Well, as a result, that particular storage method put a pinhole in the note. Now, if a note has one pinhole, the grading company will sometimes overlook that, and they'll be like, you know what, that's the only defect. We're still going to award the EPQ moniker. Other times, though, you'll get a note that looks like it has like 3 pinholes in it, and as a result, they will not award the EPQ moniker to that note. Another thing you should be aware of, if a note's ripped, if it's torn, if it's bent a certain way, it cannot by default get an EPQ moniker. Or, again, if you're talking about PCGS, a PPQ moniker. So all that exceptional paper quality and premium paper quality means is that the note is all original. It was not manipulated or ruined, whether it be unintentionally or intentionally. So that's something to pay attention to if you're going to collect this stuff. Now, my favorite currency grading company, and I'm just going to state this, is PMG. PMG is owned and operated, again, by the Certified Collectibles Group down in Florida, Sarasota, Florida. They're owned by the same company that owns NGC for coins and CGC for comic books and trading cards. So in my opinion, they're very trustworthy. The thing that you need to know going into this market, and this is not something that you guys are going to want to hear. In most cases, if you're going to collect large size notes like this, and they're going to be in a substantial grade, and what I mean by substantial grade is, I consider the bottom tier of choice uncirculated to be a substantial grade when you collect this stuff. In fact, when I collect banknotes, if you look through this collection, all these, just this mini collection, these 5 notes that I pulled out of my main collection, all these notes are graded anywhere from 63 to 64 to 65 to 66. Those are the primary grades that I collect for paper money, and they all must have the EPQ, that exceptional paper quality moniker. That's very important to me as an investor. Now, if you're going to collect these items, know that in most cases, to go after an investment grade piece of currency, you're going to have to spend $1,000 or more, which really, when you compare it to the rare coin marketplace, isn't really a lot of money. I'm going to be very honest. Because to get an investment grade coin in today's market, you're going to spend $2,000, $3,000 or more on average. There's very few investment grade coins in today's market, 2020, that can be had for under $1,000 that are literally considered investment grade pieces. Well, in currency, you kind of get lucky because there are certain notes that were hoarded in mass. For instance, if you go after the 1899 $1 known as the Black Eagle, that particular silver certificate series, there are bargains to be had in that series if you're going to collect in a grade of 64, even 65 condition. Now, when you get to the $2 denomination in that particular series, prices go up exponentially in most cases. Now, let's talk about cataloging. This is something that a lot of people need to understand, and they don't understand about this market. I'm going to show you one of these notes, and I'm going to show you my favorite note. This is a $1 1896 silver certificate, also known as the coveted educational note. This is probably one of the most popular silver certificate series ever produced. They did a $1 edition, which is this one. They did a $2 rendition, which is sitting in my safety deposit box. I was not pulling that out because in the grade that I have it in, I'm just going to state it's valued at over $10,000. I do want to get, and I do not have it yet, the $5 series of this note in at least 64 or 65 condition. That'll be one of the purchases I make in the next 1 to 2 years, full disclosure. So, where am I going with this? Well, if you look here, there is an FR number along with the number 224. And there's also names right beside that. This FR number comes back to the author of this book. That's called a Friedberg number. The author of this book created a catalog system for identifying U.S. currency that was made by the United States Bureau of Printing and Engraving. So that's why I told you guys to go after this book first. These FR numbers, which to be fair, are also listed in this other book. They also use the FR number. But overall, this book is where you want to be because the author of this book created the catalog system that everybody uses to identify these notes. Now, what is the catalog system for currency and why is it important? Well, the Friedberg number is what it is. There really is no rhyme and reason to it. For instance, this is a $2 1899 silver certificate, and this is a Friedberg number of 249. This 1896 certificate is 224. They do tend to go in order, meaning the lower number will usually sometimes be the from earlier pieces of currency. But what's most important is the signature combination, guys. You see, This 1896 silver certificate was produced in multiple runs where the signature of the Secretary of the Treasury and the Registrar of the Treasury, their signatures are different on each subsequent series, potentially. That's why the Freiburg number is very important. If this had a different signature combination, this could be a Freiburg, I think, for a $1 1896. I think the earlier one is a 223, or I think it's a later one is a 225. So that's why that's important. That's how they catalog these notes, guys. This is very important to know because sometimes you'll get a very high in demand rare banknote with different signature combinations that make it even more valuable. So let me show you as an example. This is, believe it or not, a $7,500 banknote. This banknote right here is $7,500. Now let me explain one of the reasons why. This is a Freiburg 120. These two signatures up here, it lists the signatures. This is a very uncommon signature combination. As a result, collectors are willing to pay more for this banknote in 64 EPQ than they would of an earlier number, maybe a 119, in similar condition as a result. So this is something that you must learn. It's very important to understand that it's not only the note that makes this particular piece valuable, it's also the signature combinations from both the Registry of the Treasury and also the Secretary of the Treasury. And I'm probably saying those terms wrong. I apologize. But just note that that makes value for this particular item. So you must understand that if you're going to collect this stuff. Now that we're towards the end of the video, and again, I just wanted to give you a primer on this, I'm going to go through and I'm going to show you these 5 notes, and I'm going to tell you how valuable each one is. Okay? Again, this is a $10 1901 legal tender note in PMG 64 EPQ condition. This note is coveted because it's routinely called the Bison note. If you look how beautiful this note was produced, and even the back, how beautiful it is, a lot of collectors want to own this. This is a $7,500 banknote, guys. Next, we have one of my favorites. This is the $1 educational 1996 silver certificate graded by PMG in 66 EPQ condition. This note retails today for anywhere from $4,000 all the way up to literally $4,700 on the market today if you can find one of these in this grade. If you're going to buy this particular note, it must be in either 65 or 66 condition. You can't buy a note like this in 63 or 64 because guess what, guys? There's too many of them out there. This is probably one of the most famous banknotes ever produced. You want it in a high grade as you can if you're going to invest in it. This is a $10 1922 gold certificate. This is in 65 EPQ condition. Believe it or not, you could take this back in the day. You could take this $10 gold certificate. You could take it to a bank and they would give you a $10 eagle gold coin back in the day, and they would take this note from you. That's what made this and gave it its name as a gold certificate. You could have done the same thing with this silver certificate. You would have took it to the bank. They would have gave you a 1-ounce silver coin instead. That's how this worked. Next note I want to show you, and I saved one of my favorites for last. This is a $2 1899 silver certificate. This is a beautiful note in my opinion. Now, ironically, this particular note is worth about $2,500 on the open market. So this particular note's a little bit cheaper than some of the other ones, but it does have a lot of value if you can find it in the right grade. I like to get these in 65 EPQ. I will not usually touch a note like this in 64 just because there's so many out there. It is insane. A lot of people save these. You want these, the higher grade, the better. Next up, we're going to come to a very scarce piece. This is a $5 1869 legal tender. This is called the coveted rainbow note. If you look at it, you'll notice it has blue, green, and red in the printing. This was a once and done series, meaning all subsequent notes that were done in this manner did not have the rainbow printing in them. That's what makes this a coveted piece. Now, you guys want to talk a little bit about grading. If you look at this note, notes are defined by their margins. So this note is pristine. It's cut very well. The problem is it's cut off center. If you see, this margin is larger than this one. This is why it grades a 63. but it does have the coveted EPQ moniker on it. This note in today's marketplace is worth anywhere from $3,600 to $3,700, guys. That's how coveted this item is. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, this is just a quick primer, or I shouldn't say quick, it's 30 minutes long, on paper money collecting with a focus on large size notes. If you didn't get anything out of this, or you think I should have expanded on other topics, let me know in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.